In this video, I'm going to take iconic sports video games like Wii Sports, NBA 2K, and Nintendo Sports and build them all in LEGO. But not only that, I'm also going to motorize or mechanize them all and combine them into my own video game sports park named LEGOscape Springs. Can you tell ChatGPT made that name? By the way, this became my coolest and most functional build yet, so make sure you watch to the end. Okay, so there's 7 different sports and activities I want to make for this build, all with different mechanisms and functionality, starting with boxing from Wii Sports. This should be pretty simple. So I put 21 base plates on my desk and built up a large wall of black bricks going around the perimeter to hold all the mechanisms underground. I also laid out where each sport is going to go, like tennis, swimming, soccer, bowling, and basketball, so that I know where to put things. Now that we have a plan, I can get started making a working boxing game. Here we go. We can start by building the boxing ring with some plates in the same dimensions as this hole right here, leaving 2 open spots for the mechanism. Then I'll use some Technic parts to make a mechanism for these buttons. It took a lot of tries, but eventually... Also, if you're wondering why I'm building such a big model for such a random niche of games, it's because a bit over a month ago when I went to visit a close friend at the hospital who had cancer, we ended up having a really fun day playing Mario Golf, Smash Bros, and most importantly, Nintendo Sports, which really inspired me to build all this, so at the end, I'm gonna call him and surprise him with the final build. But if I'm going to impress my friend, I need these games to not only look really cool like the amazing designs and backgrounds in Nintendo Sports, but also work well, so here's the finished boxing game. And if we just add 2 minifigures and some ropes along the side, we can box in LEGO. This is also a box in LEGO. That's 1 sport done, and we have 6 more to go, starting with volleyball. There's so many video games with volleyball, it can be whatever one you want it to be. First, we need a court. I built the entire thing on its sides so that these boundary lines are way thinner using the sides of plates. And using these little Technic bricks, I can add spots for the minifigures to stand on. And now it's mechanism time. This video has a lot of mechanism time. In order to make minifigures jump, I'm going to use these shock pieces and a long Technic beam on a pivot. That way, when the spring is pushed down, it brings down this end of the Technic beam, bringing up the other side, and when the force is released from the spring, it pushes back into the resting position. Just in case any of you are wondering how a spring worked. Then I used a specific assortment of angled and corner Technic beams to make the lever reach each of these Technic axles that holds the minifigure on the surface. Then when we press right here, the minifigures can jump. Then I added 2 orange buttons on top. But we also need a ball to make this volleyball, and I can guarantee these minifigures aren't skilled enough to volley on their own, so after a couple hours of building and thinking, I came up with this. This motor powers a gear chain that gears it down to be much slower. Then these 2 pieces connect to a short Technic beam, and when I connect it to this clear Lego bar and turn it on, it moves it back and forth over the roller coaster track volleyball. But it clearly doesn't have enough side-to-side movement, so for the first fix, I'm going to use this large gear that has a much bigger radius so that it will result in much more motion, which also meant using a longer Technic beam, which I forgot at first. Then, to get the perfect amount of movement, I can slide this clip higher up or further down the bar, since the closer it gets to the pivot point, the more movement we get. Then we can just add the volleyball on a bar sticking out over the players, and we have a playable version of LEGO. It's as playable as it's gonna get, which isn't technically very playable, but since volleyball was probably Zane's least favorite of the games we played, I'm not too worried. However, that can't be said for one of the games we played the most. Bowling. First we need gutters, which I added on this side, then a lane on top using some cool Lego mat that lines the top of these bricks up here with the top plate here. Yes, I know, nerdy stuff. But hey, if LEGOscape Springs is gonna be the coolest build I've made, small details like that are gonna make the difference. And yes, I abandoned that motto the minute I started working on the small details. In between each bowling lane, I made a small channel using cheese wedges that will funnel the balls back to the bowler after using them, and then added bowling pins at the end of each lane. This one's pretty simple, we just need a nice looking court. Okay, that's the court. I've left a long strip down the middle so the arm holding the ball can go back and forth. Then underneath, I came up with this fairly complicated mechanism that uses treads on their sides to basically make a camshaft that moves the ball back and forth without moving it side to side. It uses these rails to keep it in line. And wow, that's honestly pretty satisfying to watch. But we aren't finished yet, so let's put the tennis court back over the top and then add our 2 minifigures so it looks like they are playing tennis. Okay, so the next sport I want to make is swimming. Yes, I know. RJ on bricks, what video game could that possibly be? Crossy Roads if you suck at it. Bruh. Alright, with that out of the way, let's just duplicate the tennis mechanism twice, without all the cam stuff, so pretty much completely different except for the tread part, and make 2 tracks that will move the minifigures around the pool. But because I'm an absolute genius, I decided to be cool and use a chain within a chain, turning an axle, running a gear chain through everything to motorize it, when in reality, I just needed some gears on one end hooked directly to the motor. Like I said, Absolute genius. Really took the saying, simplicity is key to the heart for that one. But at least they move around the pool now. Speaking of which, we kinda need one of those to swim, so I used a bunch of these blue pieces to make it look like it's tiled like a real pool. Which also meant using a kajillion of the same colored tiles to make the bottom. And since these parts here can't be connected to any point to the other side, I connected them to the Technic beam below. And wow, that's 5 of the 7 sports complete. But Lego Scape Springs is starting to look like Gray Plate's Scape. So before I build the last 2 video game sports, let's make these 3 actually look good. First, I'll make the tennis court actually as wide as it should be in this crisp, high-resolution animation. Then I'll add some details like this giant tennis ball logo, a fence, potted plants, stairs in a walkway, and a long planter full of slightly dead-looking plants. Gotta keep it realistic, you know? And let's finish it off with some details at the back. Now let's make a cool area around the swimming pool. First, I'll add a wide staircase with this gradient, switching the gray tiles into sand. I'll also throw in this umbrella with a drink stand and some towels, a cool potted plant, and another staircase at the front. Then at the back, I'll make this long roof using small tiles as shingles and a little stone tower with a small plant on the top. And finally, bowling gets an upgrade. And now we just have 2 sports left, starting with soccer.
EA Sports.
Whoa, that was cool.
It's in the game.
Wow, that was pretty easy. Unlike the sad amount of time I spent trying to motorize the goalie to move back and forth. You know what? There, a player soccer flopping. That's pretty much all we need in soccer. Ooh, Annie's getting a red card. Oh, maybe he is actually hurt, but we don't really care because it's soccer. So moving on. Okay, and finally, let's build a basketball game inspired by NBA 2K or any basketball video game, really. First, I made 2 halves of a small court with tan bricks and placed them sideways to fill the gap. Then I made a basketball hoop using this special piece. There's also this Lego set from 2003 that made a minifigure dunk, so I replicated the mechanism for myself using some Technic parts, and now we can dunk a minifigure with this lever. Before I show my friend, I need to make the whole thing look complete, so I'll lay down a bunch of pathways for our minifigures to walk, and then some benches and potted plants. I also made a main building that's a couple stories tall at the back with this cool plant roof. And here's a really cool technique to make a palm tree using these flex tubes and a ton of these pieces. I also want to add a small restaurant since I think it'll look cool, so... And how about some more tiles in green here, some pawns next to the boxing ring, and this cool tile pattern around the basketball court using a bunch of different blue colors. And since in some video games buildings are just for looks, I'll add a bunch of windows but not worry about what's in them to fill in some space. And finally, after a few more details, all I need to do is add the minifigures. Wow, that's definitely the coolest thing I've ever built. Let's see if Zane thinks so too.
Dude, that is it right there. Oh, dude. Yo. Very nice.